This month marks the 50th anniversary of the founding of the Black Panther Party. Huey Newton and Bobby Seale founded the organization as a way to combat police brutality and oppression. They began in Oakland, where they famously monitored the behavior of the city's police department, which was notoriously brutal towards African Americans. In 1968, they began a free breakfast program for children. As their efforts drew media attention, the movement grew nationally and chapters formed in dozens of other cities. Members of the party eventually founded more than 60 different Serve the People programs that focused on providing other services such as free medical clinics. The Black Panthers outlined their goal in a 10-point program that included demands for freedom, land, housing, employment, and education. Around the same time the party was founded, the FBI began a secret program called COINTELPRO to disrupt and, quote, neutralize what it characterized as black nationalist hate groups. By 1969, the Black Panthers had become the primary focus of the program, which ultimately led to the deaths and imprisonment of many members and contributed to the party's collapse. Well, over the weekend, many former members reunited in Oakland for one of the many events marking the group's 50th anniversary. This came after Beyoncé's Black Panther-themed performance in February during the Super Bowl halftime show and after PBS aired a major new documentary called Black Panther's Vanguard of a Revolution. This is the trailer.
The thing that led to the Panthers was what we were seeing on television every day: attack dogs, fire hoses, bombings.
We stand on the eve of a black revolution, brothers.
I was a cocktail waitress in a white strip club 2 years before I joined the Black Panther Party. How did that happen? The rage was in the streets. It was everywhere.
I say that Ronald Reagan is a punk, a sissy, and a coward. And I challenge you to a duel.
Eldridge had this incredible ability to encapsulate a thought that stabbed right into the heart of the enemy. Now, was he insane? Yeah. That boy was crazy.
They were trying to change government as we know it through terrorist activity.
The State Assembly was in the midst of a heated debate when the young Negroes, armed with loaded rifles, shotguns, and pistols, marched into the Capitol.
Do you feel the nation is in trouble?
I think very definitely it is.
What is the answer?
The answer is vigorous law enforcement.
How about justice?
Justice is merely incidental to law and order.
The FBI saw the Panthers as a very, very threatening and violent revolutionary movement. They absolutely wanted this organization to be destroyed.
I felt absolutely free. I was a free Negro. In that little space I had, I was the king. And that's what I felt.
The great strength of the Black Panther Party was its ideals and its youthful vigor and enthusiasm. The great weakness of the party was its ideals and its youthful vigor and its enthusiasm. That sometimes can be very dangerous, especially when you're up against the United States government.
That's the trailer for the Black Panthers' Vanguard of the Revolution, directed by Stanley Nelson. Shortly after the film's release, Democracy Now! Spoke with one of its subjects, Kathleen Cleaver, who served as communications secretary of the Black Panther Party and is now a law professor at Emory University.
When I got involved with the Black Panthers, it was a brand new group. And in fact, there were like 5 when I got there, because most of them were in Santa Rita prison after the visit to Sacramento. So it was a new organization. It was very, very exciting. And all their principles and the black, it was one of the first organizations based on the concept of black power that had been articulated in Mississippi and by SNCC. And so I got involved with them. In December, Eldridge and I got married, and I stayed out there and continued to work with the Panthers.
How did King, Dr. Martin Luther King, fit into this picture?
In what way? My picture or the country?
In your picture, and did he inspire you? How did the Black Panthers relate to him?
Everyone was inspired on some level by Martin Luther King. He was a tremendously decent and caring person. He was extremely intelligent, and he inspired a lot of Christians. Now, Eldridge made a comment in one of his speeches in Nashville. He said, how about integrating some of this bloodshed? That was one of the issues we had, that it was too much that black people should absorb all the punishment. And we should be forgiving, and we should want to be peaceful in the face of murderous brutality in the middle of the Vietnam War. Well, that wasn't really a message that a lot of young people cared for. And so when the Black Panthers came out and started talking about self-defense, droves and droves of young people wanted to do that, and I thought that was the best, that's the best. We followed Robert Williams, and he said, if you are confronted by a racist who believes himself superior, then he has, and you're armed, he has to consider, does he want to risk his superior life to take your inferior life? And if you have a gun, you can put him in that position, and 9 times out of 10, he doesn't, and that's the end of the violence. So we believe self-defense was a way to put a reduction into violence, and I accept that.
That's Kathleen Cleaver, former communications secretary of the Black Panther Party. Today, we focus on an overlooked part of the Black Panther Party's legacy, political prisoners. The Black Panthers were one of the most criminalized movements in U.S. history, with many of its members arrested and sentenced to decades in prison. In some cases, court documents show they were punished essentially for being in the Black liberation struggle. In others, it was later revealed that torture was used to extract their confessions. Over the years, Democracy Now! Has interviewed many Black Panthers who eventually won their release from prison, such as a group of men arrested for allegedly killing a San Francisco police officer. Known as the San Francisco 8, their charges were thrown out by a state court because they were based on statements made under torture. This is former Black Panther Harold Taylor describing his arrest in the case on Democracy Now! In 2007.
Well, in 1973 in New Orleans, myself and John Bowman and Reuben Scott was arrested in New Orleans by the police department. And we were taken from the place where they arrested us and took us to the jail. And immediately when we got in the jail, they'd start beating us. They never asked us any questions in the beginning. They just started beating us. They had already had Reuben. They had arrested Reuben earlier that day before they arrested me and John Bowman. And they put me in a room with Reuben Scott when they first got me there, and he had been there a couple of hours. Well, he was laying on the floor in a fetus position, and he had urine on him, feces, and his face was scratched up, and he was swollen, and he was trembling. And I asked him, I said, Reuben, what's going on? He says, nothing. He doesn't say anything. He's just shaking. And then immediately the door opens up, and the police pull me out, and they tell me, says, if you don't cooperate, this is what you're going to get. And they made me take off my clothes, chain me to a chair, by my ankles to the bottom of the chair, and my wrists to the sides of it. And I just had on my shorts. And at that point, they started beating me.
That was former Black Panther Harold Taylor speaking about his 73 arrest and interrogation for a murder charge that was later thrown out. Now, 50 years after the founding of the Black Panther Party, many former members are still held in prison based on similar tortured confessions. Others were convicted based on questionable evidence or the testimony of government informants. Widely recognized as political prisoners, they account for one of the Black Panther Party's most enduring legacies.